Welcome back, everyone, to DBDLeague. Unfortunately, we are getting close to the end of the All Hallows League, but this usually means that the banger matches are waiting for us. And one of these banger matches is right here. The top three, basically, are fighting today in the lower bracket final. Elysium and Eternal, usually a grand final in other tournaments. This time, one of them has to say goodbye because they are facing Calamity. And with me is none other than the one and only when we are talking about analytical mindset and giving new perspectives. Prion, welcome in.
Thank you so much for the warm welcome, Dyer. It's great to be here today for this lower bracket final. And like you said, Eternal versus Elysium is neither of these teams we'd be expecting to see in the lower bracket in most tournaments. So it should be a really interesting match today.
Absolutely. As we pointed out, usually a grand final, but now Calamity came out of nowhere. We have a chance to talk about Calamity a little bit today as well, and then we will see them on Saturday. Was very surprising how the top three are currently shaking around. I still think that a lot of people are seeing Eternal as the favorite role here today, because when we are looking at this Eternal versus Elysium in a lot of other tournaments as well, usually Eternal, you could say, is taking the win. It's not so sure in the lower bracket. Everything can happen. And I also think that Eternal is not really used to the situation that they might not even make it into the grand final. Do you think this pressure that is on the shoulders today of both of these teams might bring us a lot of surprises during the best of five?
Yeah, Dyer, I think out of all of the Elysium versus Eternal games that we've seen, this might go down as one of the best ones ever, because I don't think these teams have ever met in an elimination lower bracket game before. Because like we've been saying, it's usually a grand finals type of matchup. And then especially in the All Hallows League here, we're going to have the two different Halloween sets today. It's going to be the Onryo on Midwich and the Tier 3 Myers on Hawkins Laboratory. But then I'm a little bit more interested, Dyer, in the non-All Hallows League sets that these teams have selected. They're actually very unique. A lot of the newer killers in Dead by Daylight. And then the tiebreaker is, I did not expect that to be picked at all, if you want to introduce those.
Yeah, the tiebreaker, our Nemesis on Sanctum, a very interesting map as well when we are talking about the shape of the map also. Very huge. You have this top side, the bottom side, and the little bit of the choke point that the killer can potentially hold. Reminds me a little bit of ARP sometimes when we're talking about the map. Sanctum of Wrath 1, by the way. The variation is not in the pool for AHL, so this could be very interesting from the strategy in case we are needing all the 5 sets, and I do think we will see all the 5 sets today. We might even have some tiebreakers in between being needed. In season 9, I remember Elysium and Eternal were really making it an exciting match before they faced in the grand final. They played twice during the season, and that was already a pretty close match. I totally agree with you. Let's talk about the Chucky, set number 3 from the normal killers. I felt a little bit surprised that Elysium was not banning the Chucky, because I feel like Elysium is strong on the Chucky, no problems with that, but Nightlight's Chucky was kind of making a name during the tournament, don't you think?
Yeah, I was actually going to say the exact same thing there, Dyer, because you would think that teams would be not wanting to have Nightlight on the Chucky. He has not lost a set on that killer. Eternal has been consistently picking it whenever they have the chance to. And it just makes me very curious to see what was Elysium more afraid of than Chucky that they would ban it.
Yeah, that's the most interesting questions, and we can actually go into that analyze a little bit when we are looking at the bans. Both teams in AHL have 4 bans at the beginning, and Xeno started off with the Singularity and the Artist. So these 2 killers were the most important to ban. Artist was understandable. I feel like Nightlight has also shown very, very strong performances on the Artist in the past. Singularity was a little bit surprising because Eternal was struggling against the Singularity. We remember this 1-hour match that we had. It was definitely not something that is impossible to win. And then after that, Xeno banned the Twins and the Xenomorph. That were the bans that came out of Elysium. Didn't have so much on the radar that the Xenomorph, for example, is something that you need to be super scared of, at least when we are comparing it to the Chucky. Really felt like that Nightlight was setting the tone there. On the other hand, the Dracula on set number 4, I'm not entirely sure if that's the pick for Elysium. We have seen him 2 times, I believe. Xeno was doing quite well on the Dracula, but it doesn't feel yet like this very home-like killer where you can say, oh yeah, Elysium and this killer, they go hand in hand. What do you think about the Dracula?
I think the fact that Xeno and Elysium have picked the Dracula here kind of signals that Xeno might think that he's found something out about this killer. It's very new. It's not completely figured out yet. I think his potential is yet to be seen. He's seems to be an extremely strong killer for the people that have sort of mastered him already. I think one thing that you can note is that when you play against a really good Dracula in your like public matches, they spend about 70% of the game in bat form. And I think we can probably look to see that from Xeno today. But also, it's a bit of a perplexing pick because we just saw Nightlight play extremely well in a Dracula set just last weekend. So definitely a toss-up there. Not sure who's favored in that. But the bans are really interesting as well. I'm surprised that they would have wanted to take away the Xenomorph. That is one of the worst performing killers that we've had in All Hallows League, with like an average of only about 5 stages per match. So taking that away and leaving the Chucky up is definitely a strange choice. But yeah, so the Chucky and the Dracula should be really exciting. I don't know if like Elysium is actually favored on the Dracula enough to pick it. So Chucky, though, you can definitely say that that's one of Nightlight's killers. And I think Elysium has definitely been focusing on things that Nightlight likes to play in their bans.
Yeah, and that's an interesting strategy, right? Because I feel like this kind of suits what we have seen throughout the entire All Hallows League. Eternal was struggling a little bit against Severance, for example, on the Halloween sets and on the killers that are really not often played. Eternal is super strong, but they kind of like their habit. And when they are having the killers that are usually scrimming, where they have the perk builds, the strategies, and Xeno, on the other hand, he was the first one who picked the Dracula. As soon as he came out, said, I don't need the killers that I'm usually playing. I will just try out something new. I will experiment basically mid-trial. I'm finding out what the killer can even do and what he can't do. Obviously a little bit exaggerated, but this is sometimes the vibe I get from Xeno. New killer, instantly into comp. Xeno will cook something up. And when we are looking at this, Eternal now with the Chucky worked out before. They tested it. It's safe water. Let's bring it into the lower bracket final against Elysium. This is something where we are confident with. And on the other hand, as you mentioned, it indicates that Xeno cooked something up. Maybe found a strategy, maybe found a certain perk combination. And we are also yet to reveal the map that Elysium picked. So maybe even we're loading in later and we are saying, okay, this is a very special combination of the killer power and the map that has been selected. So it is definitely going to be an interesting night. We are having the players ready in the background. It's going to be Zaka opening this best of 5 for Eternal, Xeno, iPick, Swatter, and Granite on the Survivor side. And as always, Prion, you know what's coming. The prediction for tonight. You may start. I don't want to.
Okay, yeah, this is a really tough prediction to make, Dyer. But okay, so Elysium versus Eternal, and we have Onryo, Tier 3 Myers, Chucky, Dracula, and Nemesis. I think I'm gonna have to go with a prediction of 3-2 Eternal.
3-2 Eternal, yeah. I do feel like when I'm looking on this entire matchup, I feel like Eternal is going to take it. Also based on the reason that in a lot of tournaments, and especially in a lot of grand finals, Eternal is very often coming out as the winner. It's really not a 50-50 that we are talking about here. I am, though, going to predict in favor of Elysium, just because I feel like, and to all the Eternal fans, please don't come to the DBDL headquarter and burn it down, but I feel like the scene would shake a little bit if we see Calamity and Elysium in a grand final, and for once, Eternal is standing in front of locked doors. I don't say that Eternal deserves to be out of the grand final. They 100% deserve to be there. But I feel like we are talking about making Comp DBD unpredictable again, shaking the top 3, 4, 5 a little bit around and bringing back these surprises. Then it might be nice to see Calamity and Elysium fighting in the grand final. It will be a close matchup, so I'm also predicting a 3-2, but with a little bit of hope and a few nice wishes towards Team Elysium. And with that being said, we are entering trial number 1, ladies and gentlemen. It is the Onryo Force to be on Midwich Elementary School. It is the Halloween set that we are having here today, and Zaka is going to take the first responsibility of the night.
Zaka already starting a chase here with Xeno in this bathroom. This is a god pallet, but once it's broken, the room is not very strong at all. He's actually just going to leave, though. Xeno, not the obsession, so no play with your food generated just yet. And this build from Zaka is really interesting. As he's now starting chase onto iPick here. TVs are now on Zaka, immediately starting to teleport. This is what you want to see from the Sadako set. He's going to demanifest once again. He's looking for another TV to go to right about now. Okay, he's actually found the obsession now. He's got Gren out here at this filler pallet. He wants to start generating play with your food stacks here, Dyer. If he can get a lot of those up, these chases are going to be significantly easier for this M1 killer.
Absolutely. Also, real quick, as an addition from our tournament analyst in the background, the nurse's calling has never been brought so far into AHL. So Zaka with the aura reading, a little bit of an extra advantage here. And that's the second stack of play with your food already. So from the get-go, really lucky here that Granout has been located and making some sort of zooming Onryo that is trying to be faster, obviously, when we are talking about applying some injuries here. Sloppy is definitely going to do a good chunk of work as well. Sometimes Sloppy is even working as a little bit of a mind game tool, because it does force survivors into staying injured and prioritizing the generators, because they feel like resetting is taking way too long. And if the survivor team decides to go with that strategy, obviously you have a lot more injured survivors, and then you are taking a little bit of an advantage. Talking about the advantage, we see it right here. And Earth is calling. Survivors are getting the heal off in time, though, and are playing it safe. 2 pallets are getting dropped, which is very understandable. And so far, I would say Elysium is actually playing a pretty good start in their survivor game here.
Yeah, definitely a good start for Elysium. That's going to be 2 gens popping for only 1 injury. He was just barely not able to interrupt that heal onto Grenout. And I think we're seeing a little bit of the problem with the Sadako strategy, Dyer. He's only teleported a few times, and I feel like going for this chase Onryo playstyle, she's just not a chase killer. I feel like he needs to be taking advantage of the fact that the TVs are stacked on 2 floors and going for more teleports to get the pressure up on the condemn side.
Jump into the locker, trying to go for a little bit of juking here. Didn't work out, but forces at least the grab, even though I doubt that Zaka wanted to try and go for a slug here. First hook into the game. I pick has the injury onto him, not healed just yet, so potentially we see the priority on the generators here. We'll check in a second onto that, damaging the generator for now. Here we see iPic, yeah, grinding a generator. Shout out to our production today, Savannah taking the responsibility for that here with the insight onto our injured survivor. Unhook coming through, survive back into the game. Very good strategy to go for unhooks quick, because then you're having 4 survivors in the trial, combining the pressure on the generators, and it does look promising still on the survivor side. As you mentioned, Prion, not too many teleports yet. Zaka seems to increase it now over time, but also even when we have 3 injuries at the moment, we don't see the big change yet. Zaka is not coming out as the dominant part so far.
Yeah, Chase now continuing on this relatively strong filler palette under the library here. Nice win there on the mind game. Swatter is going to go down, but there are 2 gens with very significant progress here. It's going to be Xeno, sort of injured near the killer here, and he's actually going to go for a slug onto Swatter and look for more pressure elsewhere. He finds a reset using Nurse's Calling, but the TV that he's got there just isn't close enough. He's barely going to make it here. Heal not able to be finished onto Xeno, and that's going to be another down. Very nice job there catching that reset. And there's actually another injured survivor here in iPic. He's going to go for the pickup onto Xeno, though. This could be dangerous on the pallet. Nobody's there for a save, though. He's going to be hooking and locking in a good amount of condemn stacks on Xeno, but with only 2 generators left to go, and that's Xeno's second hook, so condemned is not really going to matter even if he gets fully condemned.
Yeah, Xeno on his second hook. This might be the turning point chance for Zaka if he's getting Xeno out of the game as quick as possible before Elysium survivors are doing significant impact on the generators. You would face only 3 survivors, and that can really cut down the efficiency on the opponent's side. So this might be the chance for Zaka here to make a huge change. Trying to scout for the next potential victim that is entering Chase, sees the survivor in the distance, but unfortunately has a very long path to travel. It's definitely going to cut out the time. Seeing Swatter here not going for Xeno, realizing that the distance is a little bit too huge, and also potentially starting to calculate what is ideal when we are talking about the win condition, because how the game is going so far, it is not at all guaranteed that Xeno is being eliminated in time before the generators are getting completed. So it is a good idea potentially to go for some of these fresh hooks and making sure that the win condition 3, the individual survivors hooked, is looking a little bit better. Elysium switches the strategy a little bit from staying injured and grinding the generators to a little bit of a more careful approach. Xeno definitely wants to stay in the game, so the reset there is absolutely understandable. And when you're already going for the resets, why not just going for iPick instead? A fresh restart on the survivor side and not taking too much of a risk. Zaka going back to the hook, trying to find a potential unhooker. We definitely have someone closer by, I feel like, even though Zaka is not able to find them yet.
Yeah, and Zaka is actually in quite a good spot here with 2 generators to go. There's a generator directly under this hook on Swatter that had really good progress, and he was able to apply Eruption on it, and Elysium never stopped the regression on that. So that was a lot of time bought here for Zaka. Swatter's actually going to go to second stage here, as now Grenout is fully condemned here with a tape, though. He's got to get to his TV here, or maybe he's going to need a hit. Yes, he's going to take a hit to return his tape, but still, the fact that they have to move those tapes around the map and have the pressure of getting fully condemned stacking up here is buying even more time for Zaka, while another survivor dies on hook, and Xeno is also dead on hook. So really good pressure here for Zaka. He's going to be looking to get certainly some more stages here and go for a good result.
Yeah, some more stages are definitely what we want to see here. Swatter now only 30 seconds away from the elimination, so Xeno wasn't really needed to achieve this benefit or this advantage position that we were talking about earlier. Instead, you can just go for Swatter. If Elysium is actually not sending anyone, I was just about to mention it, then we should at least see some generators in exchange. In best game, even make it to end game, because if you are sacrificing your own team member, you usually want to make sure that the killer is paying a high price. iPick going down onto the floor, doesn't reach the pallet in time. Swatter is leaving the trial, and there's the price to pay for Zaka. Generator number 5 entering the end game, but Granout, our fresh hook, has been found, meaning that one fresh hook is down on the floor. Granout is about to be downed and potentially hooked, so this might be the end game of all times for Zaka here. Granout needs to show a very strong chase here.
Yeah, either iPick or Granout, Zaka will be very happy with either of these downs. We see Zeno on the door. He's dead on hook, so perfect survivor to be doing the door. And he's going to take another slug onto Granout. He's making a gamble here that he's going to also be able to find iPick. But he's actually going to go for the interrupt on the door onto Zeno. The survivor is dead on hook. I can't imagine he really wants to commit to Zeno here. Yeah, he wants to maybe try to find iPick. Getting the pickup onto Granout. Zeno fully condemned, but that's just a distraction. He is fully healthy and at the door. If you're Zaka here, you really want to take the guaranteed fresh hook, honestly.
Yeah, too often during AHL we have seen that killers and survivors went for some crazy action during the end game just to save a few more stages. And looking on the context here, we are in the first trial of the evening, so it's not the time yet to go for the most risky plays. Teams are starting to feel each other, who's in which form today. And yeah, Zeno going to take the injury here. Never mind, we're talking about not doing something crazy, and Zeno is doing exactly that. iPick wasting a little bit of time here with taking the injury and then staying in the trial. Smart choice here, making sure that Zaka would need to return once again if he doesn't want to be worried about iPick. And Zeno is going back into the trial. It is somewhat understandable because, of course, if Zeno is trading with Granout, we would win one stage in favor of Elysium here, which can make the win condition a little bit easier. On the other hand, first trial, you need to make sure that it's not ending in a disaster, because if Zeno, for example, is going down now as well and Granout staying on the hook, then you are giving a lot of momentum over to Team Eternal. But Zeno does actually want to try here, Prion.
I am very curious to see what Zeno is cooking here, Dyer. Granout is almost at the second stage. Yeah, I can't imagine they're going to go for that save. It looks like they are both going to take the safe option and leave the trial. With both of them injured with Sloppy Butcher, there was really no way that they were going to be able to heal, especially because Zaka had that Nurse's Calling, which came in clutch at least a few times there in that trial. So overall, looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 stages on 3 fresh survivors for Zaka. Honestly, a pretty great result, considering that he wasn't playing into the whole condemned thing that we saw a lot from Severance throughout this tournament. I'm surprised still that more teams aren't catching on to how strong that is on Midwich. It seems like the other teams here are favoring the chase style of Onryo, which I just don't like. I think she's too weak to get consistent results with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and considering that 8 stages on 3 different survivors is a pretty good result. Meaning for the upcoming trial, if we are getting 4 individual survivors, which is quite an achievement with the Onryo, 8 stages would be enough for Team Elysium, or we are basically talking about the equivalent of 3 full eliminations, because that would be 9 stages, and then you are taking the win for yourself as well. And 3 kills is kind of a challenge. We were mentioning it multiple times now. The Onryo is pretty weak. Of course, she has the huge advantage. The survivors have to play without any perks on the Halloween balancing that we are using here for set 1. Yet 3 full kills is not the thing you want to hear when going into your Onryo trial, that your team is telling you you need to get 3 full kills. Prion, what are you expecting from the upcoming trial when we are having this win condition? More teleports this time from, I believe, Zeno should be the killer. Yeah, he is indeed. Or is it going to be the same style as we have seen on Eternal right now? A little bit more this hit and run, we could call it.
Well, that's an interesting question, Dyer, because I have seen Xeno's build, and I know we're not allowed to talk about it yet. But Xeno's build does answer that question for me,
Mhm.
but we can't say what his build is. So I guess I can't answer that question, actually.
Then we are going to postpone this question a little bit. You're very right. I just took a look onto the perks now. It does indeed give us a good idea what Elysium has discussed there. They are getting ready, ladies and gentlemen. Dan, Nightlight, Zaka, and Spitz. Spitz was kind of missing, I felt like, in the game against Severance on the last Sunday evening. It was. A lot of people were asking where Spitz is, because I really feel like Spitz has made a huge name in the competitive scene in the past weeks and months. We have multiple clips from season 9, some silly clips where he's juking out of a Z-wall like it's the most safe objective that has ever been created by the developers, but also he is taking a lot of responsibility for the team. I feel like he's taking a lot of first chases. He's taking a lot of chases during the end game, making sure that the survivor side of Eternal is getting some extra time. Dan is another survivor like this who's constantly shining during the mid game and making sure that Eternal can pull it back. And I really feel like we are going to see a difference today between the Eternal that played last Sunday and was almost knocked out, and an Eternal that is today playing with Nightlight, with Zaka, Spitz, and Dan. Basically the optimal roster again.
So the way I would put it, Dyer, is obviously all of these survivors that are going to be playing today are like top level in the entire world. But if you told me to pick one survivor in all of DBDLeague that I did not want to play a 50-50 palette against on Killer, I would choose Spitz.
Mm-hmm. That's a very fair judgment there. I remember when I was in the VC of Eternal last weekend, sometimes Spitz even said, I don't know how I won it, but I'm still alive. And then he just kept on with the game. Definitely, he's very unpredictable, and he's mixing vaults into fakes, into slow vaults in such a great just a great mixture that no one can really read him. The one person that might be able to read Spitz and the strategy of Eternal is none other than Xeno, one of the most known players in the competitive scene with years of experience right now on the Onryo. And there it is. We are having coup de grace, ladies and gentlemen, once again here together with No Way Out and Know It. So an absolute endgame build. And I feel like this is telling us that he's expecting Eternal, though, to put up quite a good performance in the mid game.
Yeah, and once again, it is going to be a chase-centric build for these Onryo players. But okay, some teleports coming out already. It looks like the survivors of Eternal are already starting to move some tapes. But Nightlight here gets caught on the bottom of the library. Gonna throw that pallet there and run around the backside. He has a little bit of distance here, but this will eventually turn into a 50-50. Xeno not opting to break the pallet just yet. Kind of wins the 50-50 there. Gets Bloodlust and is going to land a hit onto Nightlight. So that's going to be the first hit of the game. Will he choose to commit to this chase, though?
That's going to be the interesting question. Yeah, we have the God pallet here in the hallway that you have to destroy, costing a lot of time, and Xeno decides to go somewhere else. Interesting fact about Spitz also, since we talked about him during the break. Spitz is the survivor with the most escapes, actually. That kind of correlates to his great behavior that he's showing us in the chases and with his mind games. 15 escapes in total. Very impressive throughout all Hallows League here, especially considering that he didn't play every single game that Eternal was assigned for. Finding the next survivor here, Dan, we talked about him as well. Very strong in the individual chases. Sometimes the one deciding factor that is able to waste a lot of time. So Xeno also realizing that it's not a guaranteed injury, switching again. We see definitely a very different approach this time on the killer sides. A lot more teleports, maybe trying to get a little bit more of these condemned stacks, and therefore putting up an extra objective with the TVs that would waste a little bit of time on the survivor side.
Yeah, I really like this approach from Xeno. And it makes sense because his build is almost entirely backloaded as far as the perk power goes. He's going to have insane power once the gens start to get done, and especially once they finish with that no-ed, no way out. And people really underestimate the power of like a no-ed hit coming in with coup de grace as well. He doesn't have a single stack of coup yet because no gens have been done, so he's kind of relying on the Onryo's base kit right now to slow down the game. See if he can get Eternal to start caring about moving tapes. And if he can actually get a M1 down here onto Dan, that would be great. Any downs here that he can get just without using any of his perks are going to be perfect. He wants to stack up as many no way out stacks as he can before that end game. Ideally, he's going to want 4 because that will also make the win condition easier for him, since Zaka only had 3 fresh hooks.
Yeah, that's an important factor here. With all the teleports also, you might be able to create a little bit of chaos, getting and catching some survivors off guard, and then 8 stages would be enough, as if we are having the tie with the counter of the hook stages, we are checking for the amount of individual survivors. So if you're new to DBDL, it's important to understand that 6 stages, for example, on 2 survivors is worth less than getting these 6 stages on 3 or 4 survivors. Making sure that there's no injury taken here. I like the careful approach that Eternal is showing. They are not running into the killer. They are showing a very good communication and awareness where Xeno is located at the moment. Of course, it does cost a lot of resources, quite some pallets, and strong pallets have already been used. This might be a benefit for Xeno later on in the mid and end game here, but it seems like he decides to go for the camp onto Dan, as it's just a few seconds away here. 2 survivors though rotating in. That's going to be now the survivors turning away again. If they would have tried to pass beyond Xeno would have not been allowed to block for longer than 10 seconds, but even 9 or 8 seconds would have been enough to go for the second stage. So very smart decision and playstyle here by Xeno, using the hallway to his advantage. And with 5 gens still standing, he might be in the position to tunnel out Dan here and cutting Eternal to 3 individual survivors.
Yeah, Dyer, that had to be a bit of a miscommunication from Eternal there. They should have had the survivors come from opposite directions in that hallway. It's so narrow with the debris blocking the way that Xeno was just able to prevent both of them from unhooking at all. So now Dan, dead on hook at 4 gens actually, but still, dead on hook at 4 gens, and the killer is on his trail. This pallet is not very safe. This could be a death super early for Xeno.
Very, very strong showing by Xeno. It's the dream start. Eternal had a good result, 8 stages on 3 survivors, but now you are kicking it off here for Elysium, and you are making sure that a survivor is dying with 4 gens still standing. We can tell by the sounds around us here in the courtyard. They are working on the other generators. They're getting ready to get more objectives out of the way. Luckily, we are having a little bit of a regression here now in the courtyard that is going to cost some time. Spitz is going to rotate straight back to make sure that the generator is going to be completed. But Xeno must feel very nice now. He's going to realize, I'm in a good position. The survivor team that is currently spectating Xeno is going to realize as well. So they are going to hype him up a little bit, and he really has the best chances to turn it into the first set win here.
Yeah, absolute miracle of a start for Xeno there. Getting a kill onto Dan at 4 gens remaining, and yes, it's true that Eternal has decent gen progress here. They have a few generators done, a couple close to being done as well, but that progress means a lot less when Xeno is only getting stronger as those gens get done. He's got lots of stacks of coup de grace now. It's going to make these chases significantly harder, and these are going to be chases in the 3v1 that are going to be so hard to survive in for Eternal. And in the 3v1 here, this is when your chases absolutely need to be long if you're going to win this game. For Eternal and Spitz, just not ready for the coup de grace. It's so good on these small mid-witch tiles.
Yeah, very interesting decision there with the coup de grace. It has been brought out multiple times in AHL. Some people still say that has a little bit of a meme factor, but then in the competitive setting, it turns into a very valuable perk, especially on loops like here, as you mentioned. And Xeno so far able to make the most out of it. Zaka with a very important chase. We have the elimination so far. We have Xeno in a good position. So if Zaka is able to waste a lot of time here from Xeno and making sure that the other survivors can go for the generators. That would really be a nice move. Nightlight, though, is going to be the next one in chase. Drops the pallet early as well, keeping it safe and making sure that Xeno is wasting quite some time here. Perfect rotation also. As soon as the line of sight is broken and Xeno is basically mind gaming, he's just running away, causing the killer to, you can call it mind gaming themselves without an injury and wasting some time. So Eternal is showing one thing very clear. Yeah, they are in a disadvantage. They have the elimination so far, but how they are playing right now on the survivor side doesn't look insecure or like being in the losing position at all. They are grinding on the gens and they are still with a very high chance to make this a success.
Yeah, 2 stacks of no way out here for Xeno, and he's surely going to get the down here onto Zaka with the coup de grace at this filler pellet. Actually not going to go for the hit just yet. Zaka is going to be able to drop the pallet, vault it one way, now back around the other side. And he's actually going to go down there to the coup de grace. Nice job there from Xeno. That pallet is so hard to play when Coup is on the field. So he's actually going to slug here. I'm curious why he would do that when he needs to get that no way out stack on Zaka.
Now Zaka staying on the floor as Xeno also realizes that the pressure is rising here and there could be no better survivor to down than Spitz right here. He was injured already, so it's very fastly done. But also quick is Nightlight here with the reset and pickup on to Zaka. Very important that Eternal is now keeping it together and making sure that he's moving forward. Spitz has the second hook stage on him, so we are talking about 60 seconds timer for the second survivor of Eternal that might be sacrificed in a moment. Zaka going back towards the top side here, and now of course it's also difficult for these survivors to get that final generator done. One of them is on the hook, one needs to make sure that Spitz is getting unhooked, and the third one is very often then in the chase with the killer. This is why the 3v1 scenario is so powerful to the killer, because basically every survivor has a different task than doing the generators. Now a little bit of downtime again, window of opportunity here for Team Eternal. Nightlight, the healthy survivors, absolutely not who Xeno is looking for, so we are going to see some other teleports trying to find the injured survivor. But I also feel like Prion right now is the perfect time for a reset, and it seems like Eternal agrees.
Yep, Xeno though also knows that it's the perfect time for a reset, and he wants to find this injured survivor in Spitz. Coup de grace comes around the chemistry room pallet, and Spitz in the locker here. He's coming in for the pallet save, and he's not going to get it. Oh, that is disaster for Team Eternal, and he's actually just going to drop Zaka and confirm the kill onto Spitz. Injured and going for the pallet save, Spitz just does not get the timing right, and I think, Dyer, that is the final strike for Eternal in this Onryo set.
Very well done by Team Elysium here and Team Xeno, I was about to say. Very well done though by Eternal with trying to counter this, but there was just a little bit too much of a plan going on from Xeno. And it's also impressive if we keep in mind, right, we are seeing no way out and no one escapes death, so 2 of these perks didn't have any sort of impact yet when we are talking about the trial. And this is kind of impressive because the previous performance, 8 stages on 3 survivors, has been achieved with 4 perks. Basically Xeno is playing with only 2 perks at the moment. This should be highlighted as well here and indicates how good Xeno is performing here at the moment. The rest should be a little bit of formality here, getting the necessary stages together, making sure that he is in best case even finishing this with a 4K to set down the tone here and making sure that Eternal realizes that Xeno is playing an absolute top form at the moment. Both survivors here also together, meaning that Xeno knows that there is no one working on the generators just yet. Nightlight can also be Mori'd. That would be very exciting to see, as we are clearly not having enough Moris in competitive DBD. In case you're wondering, a Mori that is earned through the power or any perk is just counting all the stages and the individual survivor. So we might see a little bit of special elimination going on here.
Yeah, Nightlight here, he doesn't even have a tape, so it's only a matter of time before he gets the eyeball here. But let's talk about, Dyer, where this went wrong for Eternal, because I think we can narrow it down to one specific moment as Nightlight narrowly dodges that basic attack on the window. But it had to be that first unhook on Dan going wrong that just really put Eternal behind in this game.
Nightlight on a good chase though, and this can also be important because even though set number 1 hasn't worked out, you can still make sure that Zeno realizes these survivors are in top form as well. And Zeno is getting the gift from Matthew Coty himself. That is the hatch right there. Zaka is going to be trapped here, and even if he would have made it out of the door, it would have still been 12 stages on 4 survivors, as the hatch or exit gates in AHL only count if the survivor team has gotten all the generators beforehand. Very strong performance by Team Elysium, and the most important point, Prion, it was Eternal's pick.
Yeah, that is definitely the most important thing here, Dyer. You do not want to lose that set that you pick in the first game. This is going to be a lot of momentum for Elysium going into this next set, which is going to be the Tier 3 Myers on Hawkins, selected by Elysium. Nice win on the 50-50 there from Zaka. Luckily, because the hatch was closed by Zeno, the survivors of Eternal will definitively get to see that Zeno was playing with 2 perks this game, as the Noed is going to be tasted by Zaka. And we are going to get the end game Mori here. So incredible play from Zeno here. I really liked the strategy that he went for with the end game perks, but he just didn't end up needing it because of that botched unhook onto Dan.
Very well done. I'm just impressed because Zeno was definitely preparing something here. We can tell that. We can see it in the perks. We can see it in the strategy. That is very well done. Of course, it's always a different story if this is then also working out for you, if the plan is really falling together. As we mentioned, it has been Eternal's pick. So Elysium is taking the first set point and continues with what they have selected, which is the Tier 3 Myers. So very, very interesting set. The killers have to pick either Unforeseen or Trail of Torment to also add a little bit of a jump scare spirit to this set. We are going to set up the upcoming trial. Short chance for you to get a little bit of hydration. We are going to do the same here behind the scenes, and we'll see you in just a moment after this very short break.
Welcome everybody to the Hawkins National Laboratory. Here we have Zeno on the shape for Team Elysium, looking to start stalking, trying to get out of that Tier 1 here, and getting out of that Tier 1 quickly is one of the most important things we've been seeing in this Halloween Tier 3 Myers set. He's already found Zaka here, but Zaka doing a great job of breaking line of sight. He's only about 2/3 of the way to that Tier 2. Forced to walk around this small pallet very slowly, almost there. He's almost to Tier 2. Okay, there we go. Now Zeno can start playing the game. He's no longer a poor little Michael Myers that moves almost as slow as survivors. So gets a hit there onto Zaka. Now looks like he's actually committing to this chase, Dyer.
I mean, it is very, very rewarding when you're getting the first down without the Tier 3 being needed. Eternal realizes that as well, is sending in Nightlight. Very nice team performance here. One survivor is dropping the pallet, the other one just holds W to get a little bit of distance, and a nice stun coming out here. So far, a good showing by our survivor team.
Yeah, and he's able to get out of that room with the help from Nightlight throwing the pallet for him. And my apologies, Dyer, I can't see the Discord stream right now.
That's the same for me. I do think we have our very famous Discord problem again that is striking sometimes together with the audio issues. Now it's back here, and maybe a very quick reminder, if you're noticing any audio issues or so lately on DBDL, we are trying to work on it, but sometimes Discord is limiting us a little bit as it's our medium to work with. We are back in the game though, Zeno doing a little bit of stalking here and there, but he doesn't really find the survivor yet that is perfect for the chase. Zaka, the chase with the Zaka didn't really work out. We have a second injury now onto Spitz, but the first generator is already completed. We don't have a down. We don't have tier 3 yet. I'm starting to get a little bit worried for our killer here.
Yeah, it's okay to be a little bit worried for Zeno here, but we've seen this a lot in these tier 3 Myers sets where the survivors get out to a very fast start, but they're not able to prevent the tier 3 from coming in, and then once that tier 3 does come in and the downs start to happen, the survivors significantly slow down and aren't able to complete all the generators. So Dan now, the obsession here, he's actually able to be stalked from under those grates. That's a very nice bit of knowledge from Zeno. He's getting so much stock on Dan from out of line of sight of him, honestly. He's going to get the infinite tier 3 there. Nice little bit of tech there from Zeno. Unfortunate for Dan. Both the obsession and the person with the least stock on him really giving over the infinite tier 3 there. And at 4 gens, this is where it starts to ramp up for Zeno.
Now Zeno is feeling the blood around him. He's kind of falling into rampage mode, hopefully at least, when you are hoping for Team Elysium today. First down onto Nightlight here, and that's going to be the first hook stage of the game therefore as well. And I doubt that Zeno is just going for the camp here. Too much time has been lost so far. Almost 2 completed generators here in the first few minutes of the game. So we're going to see Zeno guarding the top generator as he realizes that there has been a survivor, and it actually has a pretty significant amount of progress. That's going to be though the jump scare re-enabled, unforeseen, placed onto that generator. 5% of haste as well due to the play with your food. So we are now talking about basically invisible, fast and very dangerous Michael Myers that is chasing down Spitz this time, and this better be a longer chase in order to give Eternal a little bit more time on the gens here.
Yeah, and this palette is just completely unplayable against tier 3 Myers.
Yeah.
Spitz going to go down very quickly there, and you can't blame him at all with that increased lunge. Now I'm surprised that Zeno did not camp that first hook a little bit more, because that middle generator in the hallway is so important, and it was regressing from Eruption, but he left the hook, and that is why Eternal elected to pull very quickly there onto Nightlight. So Spitz going to be left on the floor here. Now chase onto Nightlight. Spitz picked up in the distance. Nightlight makes it away from the portal room into one of these filler rooms. This one's not very strong, but he is going to have an outside pallet in the hallway that he can drop. There's another pallet there as well. Goes for a mind game, but it's not going to work out, and that middle generator is done. Zeno gets auto-aimed there. That is so unfortunate. Still trying to mind game onto Nightlight here. Nightlight's going to make it into this room, but I don't think he makes this strong pallet.
Very unfortunate there for Zeno. Yeah, there was definitely a time loss, and Eternal is instantly punishing that with the second generator. Dan was close by, so we can see they are planning how to rescue each other. They are planning how they can keep Zeno under control here. Pallet save didn't really work, but letting Zeno know we would have done it if our survivor would have been a little bit further into the pallet is definitely also a signal to send. Dan, Zaka and Spitz have no hook stages so far. Are they going to be able to rescue Nightlight and then keep him hidden so they are having a few fresh hooks here? That might be very difficult now, because Zaka is going down not too far from the unhook that is being needed, and the third survivor is around as well. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm just asking you to remember what happened here last weekend on tier 3. Out of nowhere, it turned absolutely horrible for Team Eternal when they were trying to go for a pallet save. We're not talking about this exact situation, but we are again talking about a potential turning point here. Zack on the floor, Nightlight about to die. Prion, this looks pretty difficult right now.
Yeah, Dyer, I want to take a second to talk about this hook, because this hook spawns 100% of the time on Hawkins, and we have consistently seen Tier 3 Myers players go for this hook specifically because they're able to apply their generator stealth perk on that upstairs generator while in Tier 3, and it makes it incredibly confusing and difficult for the survivors to go for any sort of save on that stairway hook. There's just not enough line of sight. The only ways that they can get to it really give them no information on where the killer is, and when the killer is permanently exposing everybody, it's nearly impossible to save off of that hook.
And now Xeno back to chasing the prey here after getting Nightlight out of the way. You have this great feeling. How is that not a down? Is what Xeno is going to scream here. But Dan is playing with his Nintendo Switch on the roof of the behavior headquarters specifically for this game here. He flew all the way across the ocean to make sure that Xeno is going to have a hard time. And this is going to be punishing now, because not only are you not having the down here, you lost some time following that survivor. Now you have to rotate back. So we are talking about minimum 20 to 25 seconds here for the survivor team. Zaka going into the locker, making sure that a tunnel and slugging strategy doesn't work out here. Instead, Zeno has to Xeno and Zaka, Zico. Anyway, he had to grab the survivor from the locker here and trying to go for the next survivor now. Eternal getting a good efficiency into the gens, yet it's not enough to pop any of these, so it's really on edge at the moment.
And he's going to drop down from the upstairs directly onto Xeno's head, and he just goes down on that filler pallet. Xeno was rotating for the unhook there and just gets shocked by the killer dropping from the sky. And Dyer, that's why these Tier 3 Myers players, they keep putting their gen stealth perk on that upstairs generator. The Tier 3 Myers terror radius is so huge, and Spitz gets caught as well. 2 survivors, both surprised by the undetectable. And my god, Dyer, that is a 4K3 as long as nothing with Deliverance happens here with Dan.
4K3 is a horrendous result when we are talking about the standards that Team Eternal has for themselves and what we are used to. Dan has the Deliverance, so that's going to be the chance there to unhook. Therefore, very understandable that Xeno is just going to wait, doesn't want to let Dan go for more unhooks here. That's just going to be the down though. So everything is under control. Dear fans of Elysium, Decisive Strike has been disabled as he was trying to go for the unhook. So Xeno doesn't take a risk here, taking this survivor. And yeah, 4K3. When we are imagining, Prion, this as a headline in the news in the evening, Eternal 4K'd on 3 gens remaining. What do you feel?
I want to finish the thought I had about that upstairs gen before, because like I was saying right before Team Eternal all decided to go down on the floor at once, the terror radius of the Tier 3 Myers is absolutely gigantic. I believe it's about the size of Wesker's terror radius, bigger than any other killer. And when you place that unforeseen onto that upstairs generator, the survivors have absolutely no idea where he is. And so that's why we saw both of the survivors getting caught out by that. It's especially more confusing than putting it on one of the main floor generators, because you feel like he's right on top of you, but you can't see him anywhere around you, even if he is still near the generator, which has the terror radius tied to it with unforeseen. So really nicely done there from Xeno, but also big mistakes coming out from Eternal, and they have given their killer a very dangerous result to try to match.
Yeah, absolutely. This is not the win condition you're going up to against Elysium here. I even feel like if Zaka is getting a 4K3 in this upcoming trial now and going for a tie, this you can really celebrate like a win. 4K4 would be absolutely insane and almost impossible. So 4K3, if you are making sure this ends in a tie with this strong Xeno performance, then you can really, really celebrate here. The difficulty is, as always in all Hallows League, the perks have been selected by the killer beforehand, so we can only hope that Zaka was not coming in with some endgame related perk, like a No Way Out, saying, I'm gonna strike later on during the match, because then you're basically just playing with 3 perks here. We can only hope that it was something chase related for the mid game here. Swatter, Xeno, Granout are joining the lobby, and you can see in their survivor poses how confident and good they are feeling. Like, Prion, maybe real quick talking about the strategy. When you are coming into the Myers set, you need to go 4k4. How are you playing it? Slugging from the start and then saying, if it doesn't work, okay, it was a crazy attempt, we lost anyway, it doesn't matter if it's 4k2 or if I'm getting 4 outed. So will we see something absolutely crazy, or just something normal and trying to somehow match this result?
I think we're going to have to see something different from Zaka here. And if I were the one that had to get this result, what I would do is you cannot pick up, you have to slug. And besides that, you need to find a generator that they're working on very early and try to play into your Trail of Torment or Unforeseen in the very early stages of the game and get more stock than you would usually be able to get, just by kind of using that stealth and trying to catch people off guard. If Zaka can get a ton of stock off onto somebody that's unsuspecting and get his infinite tier 3 up very quickly, then I think he has a chance to slug this out and meet the win condition. It's a very long shot, but I think that's his path to victory here.
I mean, that would be a very interesting one, right? Because that brings us back to the core Michael gameplay and how the developers originally intended this killer to be played. Sneaking up on someone, then making sure that they are completely unaware that the killer is behind them, getting basically punished with a lot of stalk progress early on, and then out of nowhere the tier 3. So the core Michael gameplay could be the key to having a good game and getting the miracle here that Eternal really, really needs. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, it's definitely not a great situation to be in when we are looking on the wider picture here. Best of 5, first set was Eternal's pick. They lost it. Then you are going into the set of Elysium, basically thinking for yourself, okay, we have to take the set from our opponent, and then the opponent says, well, take this 4k3. So when we're not looking only onto the trial here, but on the trials overall so far, I feel like Elysium it couldn't go better, right? It's the dream start.
Yeah, Elysium here. I mean, if we can't say anything yet because the game obviously has not been decided. But Elysium here, if they are able to go up 2-0, they are going to feel so good going into that Chucky set. Even though the Chucky set is super strong for Eternal, just the mental boost of being up 2-0 and in such a decisive factor, or in such a decisive way, is going to be really good for Eternals, or for Elysium's mental game here, because the mental game is so important in these long sets. You want to approach these games, honestly, as if every set that you play is a tied score. If you let it get to you that, like, oh, we're about to lose, or, oh, we only need one more win, then you kind of open yourself up to having maybe getting overconfident or getting too down on yourself and not playing the way that you should. So it's going to be Elysium's game to lose here now that they have the momentum.
Absolutely. I have to agree. Elysium is putting the expectations really, really high. Let's find out if they can pull through. We had it a lot of times, actually, when we are talking about the story of Elysium and the story of Xeno. They were very often looking very strong, even in the grand final of season 9, and then something happened. They were not able to push it all the way through 5 or 7 sets, and it would be the chance tonight to get rid of this so big opponent, Eternal, the constant fight, Elysium or Eternal, getting rid of this huge opponent early on and entering the grand final with Calamity. It would be a completely different story, a completely different chance this time for Elysium that has a meaning much further than just going for a grand final here. And that's why they need to make sure that they are playing this very, very well. The first responsibility lays on Granout. Half of tier 1 is being stalked, a little bit of extra peeking there from our survivor, bringing us to 75%. That's definitely a good stalk progress. And then vaulting into the killer. Prion, you talked about how it's important that Zaka is getting quick stalk progress, and Granout is a little bit of feeding here even.
Yeah, Granout was having such good pathing there at the beginning, and he vaults into the killer once again. I mean, these basic attack hits don't really matter as long as he can get to a strong area, because he's eventually going to have the infinite tier 3 anyways. But Granout was doing such a good job denying that tier 2, and then he just lost it and vaulted straight into Zaka, giving him the tier 2 and a hit. But now he's playing in this very strong room. This room has 2 pallets, which are essentially god pallets against most killers. So Granout going to be chucking both of those. One of them broken, the other one left standing, and Zaka now going to leave him and go for somebody else. I think he hears somebody at the portal room, maybe going for the same sort of stalk play that Zeno went for in the last game, as that's the upstairs gen already done, Dire. That means like that strategy with the stealth perk is not available for Zaka.
Difficult here for Team Elysium. You really want to have a good survivor game. Now you're having 2 injuries already, but so far I guess no one is going down except Direwolf is Omega caster cursing Team Elysium here. Second generator should be completed before Zaka makes it all the way there to the top side. We are having a little bit of eruption for the generator defense on the killer side, together with the very much needed play with your food. I feel like the corrupt intervention was helping a little bit, but when we are talking about this very crazy playstyle that Zaka needs, obviously he couldn't predict to face such a huge win condition, but Zaka probably hoping for something a little bit more crazy, even maybe a coup de grace to go for some crazy swings once he has the tier 3 and then chaining the downs together. Granout here with a much better mind game now than in the early game, where he handed out the injuries, realizes that he has the responsibility to stay alive as long as Swatter is on the hook at least. Great checkpoint here right behind the pallet, making sure that he has both entrances in reach, but then unfortunately not able to make it back towards the pallet. That's the down, but Swatter is back in the game. One more generator for Team Elysium. We already have 70% over here, but Zaka is very well aware that this generator was under attack, so he's going there next. Very smart also that they are going for the generator on the opposite side now. Hawkins is a very, very long stretched map where the killer wastes quite some time when walking from the top to the bottom side, and I feel like Elysium is perfectly abusing this circumstance.
Yeah, and also Elysium survivors are dying in the perfect places, honestly. We saw Swatter go down in the portal room and Granout go down all the way in the opposite corner of the map. And with only one generator to go, it's at 50% right now, and that's the portal room generator. This is all but sealed in favor of Elysium, Dire. I don't think Zaka is going to be able to slug all 4 survivors on the floor and get to the portal room and stop it all at once. He is not even in the tier 3 yet, and Elysium is about to win this game.
Back to the next chase, and somehow Zaka needs the down here and at the same time in the room nearby, and it would be so good if we could split the Michael. Impressive also that we don't have the tier 3 yet for Zaka. He realizes that he needs to go for some crazy injuries. We see the swings here. Is that survivor okay?
Potential energy mentioned, Dire. Zeno is potential energying the portal room gen.
Yeah, okay.
Have we ever seen this before in DBDLeague? Like, this is that one perk that when you see it in your solo queue game, you're like, there is no way this guy is potential energying my gen. Like, what is going on in my solo queue game? And that's going to be Zeno completing the portal room gen, securing the securing this match for Elysium. They're going to go up 2-0. And he's got 20 stacks of potential energy from the Vittorio Toscano teachable perk. Nice dead hard there from Grenout.
That's why it absolutely didn't cross my mind, because potential energy here, especially in this situation where they are about to take the win, was absolutely not something I could imagine here. Very much of a tank move. I was really worried there that our survivor is lagging out and was like, please not in this moment where Elysium is about to take it. But very, very well done. Surprising even us here on the desk, and I think and hope at least some viewers as well, because the 2-0 for Elysium in these first two sets was certainly not something that we could expect or predict, at least not this clearly with how the performances are currently going. Swatter entering the portal room, waiting a little bit. That's going to be the end game even for Team Elysium. We are not even taking the difference with 1 or 2 generators. Instead, we are talking about 4k3 to very likely some outs here. So Elysium is not even winning right now. Elysium is dominating.
And that was 20% instant progress applied to that generator by Xeno. He is playing as a wizard out here. He's casting spells on these generators for Elysium. And it's just so silly to see play with your, or so silly to see potential energy here, Dire. Like, that's the perk that when I turn around and see it, I'm just like, man, I hate it here.
Yeah, absolutely. Short stepping up for Zaka there as the lawyer of Eternal before. In case you are currently entering Twitter and you're ready to type out, I just watched Comp DBD and what did the world best killer deliver? Nothing. El Mao, take note, or whatever you're doing in your free time. Keep in mind that this was actually a standard performance that we've seen. It was a good performance on the Michael. Keep in mind the win condition was very, very difficult. So Zaka had to go for something crazy. He couldn't play the normal generator defense. He couldn't play the normal strategy. He had to go for something crazy. And also that you kind of rely, especially on the weaker end, on some survivor mistakes. Getting tier 3 involves some survivor mistakes, being unaware where you are, vaulting into you, etc. So before you're entering Twitter, make sure that you are considering that in your calculations. Now is the time to strike, not only because Eternal has to strike, otherwise they are out of the tournament. It is time for Nightlight's Chucky. Prion, this is the moment to bring it back.
Yeah, this is it, Dire. This is do or die for Eternal. Their backs are against the wall, but honestly, I don't think there is another set that they would rather have this situation for. Nightlight's Chucky has been lights out in All Hallows League so far. Every single Chucky game he has played has ended in a 4k2 or better. So Elysium has a very tall order here. It's going to be tough for them to win this one. They need all of the momentum that they've carried from these 2 previous sets. And I think if they are able to sweep this series by winning the Chucky set, then that would be a definitive win over Eternal, a real statement for Elysium.
It would. And if I'm Calamity, I would not like when I'm going into the grand final, waiting there for my opponent, and Elysium is coming in. Yo, we just 3-0'd Eternal, and we played 2 Eternal sets, and we played their Chucky, something they are known for, and we just took it 3-0. I feel like this is also not the greatest feeling for Calamity in case Elysium would enter the stage. It would make sense though, because Xeno, iPick, Swatter, they are and Grenout, they are going to have one hell of a mindset right now and one hell of a confidence on the survivor side. They are looking forward to this upcoming trial. The map is secret, ladies and gentlemen. Only Nightlight and most likely Team Eternal, because we can assume that he's telling his team members what he has in mind, knows which map will be played. Elysium has no idea. This is the new rule for All Hallows League. Picks and bans with the maps, and then it is a completely unknown environment. So unlike the Halloween sets, the survivor team of Elysium has no clue what's about to happen, and this might be the advantage for Eternal here.
Yeah, and I can't imagine that Eternal is going to be picking a brand new map for this Chucky. If I remember correctly, they've usually been picking one of 2 maps, and they've been repeating those I'm not sure if I'm allowed to talk about which ones those were because it might like shed light on what they're going to pick here. I feel like Nightlight is going to want to go with what he knows.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are on the Alive Cat Saloon, and that is Nightlight. Hopefully he will be able to make some sort of agony towards the survivors of Team Elysium. Interesting fact from the background, Eternal never lost a Chucky set so far. So thank you to our analyst for making sure that we are aware that Team Eternal should not be underestimated in these circumstances. About the housekeeping, Elysium has to select the basement and hatch location on the survivor side, and they haven't done that, and we cannot have RNG elements in competitive Dead by Daylight. At least, I mean, we have to deal with some RNG when we are talking about the pallets and the generator spawn locations, but it wouldn't be fair to have an end game being decided by a random hatch somewhere, so the survivors have to bring it. If they don't, they get half of a hook stage penalty, and they have to reveal their survivor builds. So Nightlight is now perfectly aware who has DS, who has Deliverance, and I was raging a little bit in the background, half feeling bad for Elysium, half just raging as a tournament host, because Prion, I feel like you are up 2-0. This is your chance to shine, and then in the potentially final set to make a decision, you are just revealing your perks and taking a penalty. It's just not needed.
Yeah, it is really unfortunate that they've taken a penalty like this, Dire, but pretty good start here for the survivors. They have their Deliverance survivors stealthing towards the hook right now. And Xeno had a decent chase, all things considered, against the Chucky, which is one of the strongest and easiest killers to play and chase. So if anybody can last more than 20 seconds against this killer, Nightlight, who is extremely good Chucky, that's going to be really good for Elysium. Their one saving grace on this map to play against the Chucky is definitely going to be the main building, as Pedro going to go up and trade for that unhook there. Xeno is going to be running away, and he's actually just going to take the trade onto Pedro. This is the Deliverance survivor. So good stuff for Elysium here. That's going to be another pain res and another stack of No Way Out for Nightlight. But now he's going to have to go find Xeno once again. And guess what, Dire? Xeno also has some anti-tunnel. He may not be the he may not be Deliverance, he may not be Decisive Strike, but he does have Blood Rush.
The Blood Rush is going to help here a little bit. iPick is going to go injured as well. So we are talking about 3 injured survivors now. Only Swatter can take a longer chase because he can take 2 tags, or also can be the one who's going for a trade or a difficult unhook. So it might be worth keeping Swatter a little bit safe here. Nightlight trying to get towards the next survivor, finds them over here. Very nice mind game on this pallet. iPick going down on the floor relatively quickly. Tiffany going for the pickup, but it is going to work out. I was very worried about the survivor that was close by, but seems like Elysium doesn't want to take the risk here. 3 stages on 3 individual survivors. When we are talking about the final win condition and the no way out here, it's all going according to plan, I would say.
Yeah, and we see Xeno now holding W all the way into the corner of the map. He's almost surely going to go down here. Hold on. Great pathing from Xeno, actually. He's able to mind game Nightlight and make so much distance there. I am shocked that he was able to get away from that pallet in the corner of the map. And he's already just going to another corner here. Like, you can't expect to survive for any amount of time against this Chucky and Chase unless you have the main building. So, really good pathing there from Xeno to go from one corner to the other. He's so far away from the generators. He may be dead on hook now, but that's going to be another generator done for Elysium. Their efficiency has been great so far, despite the fact that Nightlight's chases have been pretty fast. And now that's going to be Pedro. He's actually not going for the trade here. A little bit confused what he's trying to do here. He's going to try to make it back to the main building window. Nightlight going for the mind game now. Heidi Ho mode has come out. He's at the strong main building window, going to fall off of it. Slice and Dice now coming out. Does not have enough distance there, and Pedro able to confuse Nightlight with his pathing and get the unhook onto Xeno. And Dire, this is the Blood Rush survivor. Xeno is going to be able to make it so far here. He's waiting for the power to come out. And the Blood Rush causes him to dodge the slice and dice. Amazing play from Xeno. He's still in chase here. Dire, that was such a good play with the double sprint burst.
That was so well done here, and it cost so much time finally on the floor, and now we are talking about 4 generators completed already. Pedro is going to be busy with the mending, and we are only having 3 survivors remaining, but it doesn't really matter in this case. We are talking about the final generator being completed. That's going to be 3 stacks of No Way Out, keeping the survivors 48 seconds of additional time in this trial here before the exit gates can be powered. So together with the exit opening, we're talking about the minute mark here that is being reached for the end game, and this has the potential to at least take some extra stages onto Swatter, for example, who's currently in chase right here. He needs to go for a pretty impressive run if he wants to make sure that iPick and Pedro are not getting in danger here as well.
Nice job there by Swatter, vaulting back over the main building pallet. He's going to go over to this jungle gym now. I believe he does make that filler pallet, but Nightlight going to be using his small size to try to mind game, and Swatter holds W. Very nice nerves of steel there from Swatter on that filler pallet. Going to eventually go down, but that is almost all of the No Way Out gone. And Dire, this is the first time that the generators have been finished at all against Nightlight's Chucky. Elysium playing so well on Survivor here today. Their momentum is not stopping anytime soon.
They're doing so well today. I have to definitely agree. Good for Nightlight here that he got it still relatively quickly. Never mind. They are already on this exit gate here, so they might have to leave Fresh Hook behind, but we can already see in the distance that's not the case. Adam is able to go out of the door here, and if they are getting the heal in time, then this would be the perfect example again of a killer trying to get some extra stages in the end game, and this not working out. Prion, this might be a lot worse than we can expect so far. Swatter is healed, Pedro is healed as well. They should all make it out of the door here.
Yeah, and he tries to hit around Pedro there and gets Swatter instead, and Pedro's the dead hard survivor too, so he's gonna try to take a hit here. Nightlight trying to slide around Pedro, and the body block between the rocks. Incredible job from Pedro. That's going to be all 3 survivors making it out of the door. Incredible result for Elysium. Wow. Disaster for Team Eternal on the set that they have not lost once yet. And I want to point out one thing, Dire. You might have thought iPick was dead. You might have thought he got hit too soon and he wasn't going to be able to get out the gate. Yeah, but it was overcome, giving him the speed to get away from the killer on the door. So very nice perk value from him there. And only 1 kill for Nightlight's Chucky is disaster for Eternal. It is all down to their survivors now. And we're going to have Elysium playing the Chucky here. And I mean, this really could be a sweep, Dire.
The one thing that is concerning me when we are looking on the trial, right? we are having this overcome that was basically clutching, and what is making me a little bit surprised is the fact that Elysium had the penalty, so the overcome was known to the team. Maybe it went unnoticed, flew under the radar. Not entirely sure. They're definitely very, very unfortunate. And I totally understand what Nightlight was trying there in the end game. Of course, you want to get some extra stages. Of course, it would have been great to keep the survivor in the trial, to get some additional stages onto the Adam. In the meanwhile, there's someone hooked on the main building. They don't make it very far. Unfortunately, we have seen a lot of times in All Hallows League that teams in the end game tried to get a better result on Killer and Survivor the same way, and it just didn't work out. And this was certainly the case right here as well. But Eternal is now with the back to the wall. It's looking really, really tough for them.
Yeah, and it is not going to be an easy win condition for their survivors either, Dire, because while Eternal has historically been very good in this Chucky set, that hasn't really extended to the survivor side. It's more like Nightlight has just been better than the other Chucky in these sets because Chucky is such a strong killer. It's extremely difficult for survivors to last and chase against him. And so this 3-out result is just so out of the ordinary here for Elysium that this game could not be any more dire for Elysium now. Or for Eternal, my bad.
The only difficulty... Oh, sorry. Yeah, the only difficulty here is you would think 2 kills is enough, 6 stages, right? When we're talking about the amount of stages that we have seen in the previous trial, we need to keep the penalty in mind. So 6 hook stages on 4 survivors is not going to be enough anymore. We need 7 stages now. So 2 clean kills and then 1 additional hook stage, and then we are good to go. Good to go. Oh, today it's just flowing with these connections. I'm proud. Good to go. Always also Kexotan, Spitz, and Zaka. Zeno is on the killer side. And yeah, ladies and gentlemen, I just complimented myself. We are going into the final trial for today here, potentially Elysium with the potential 3-0 clean sweep in the lower bracket final, getting rid of their all-time opponent Eternal, making sure that they go into a grand final where they have to beat Calamity and not the good old opponent Eternal. And this is what we said before, Prion. This final trial here has so much more meaning than just making it into grand final.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is going to the outcome of this match is going to decide the discourse in the comp community for quite a while, because one of these 2 teams that everybody is always fighting about who's on top is going to be going home here. So Team Eternal Survivors, what do you have left in the tank here? Can you meet this extremely strong result? Zeno here on the good gal with Blood Favor Undying, Ruin, and Grim Embrace, a very different build here. And Dire, I really want Team Eternal to use the same sort of strategy that Elysium was on Survivor in the last match. They need to abuse that main building. That's the only way you can last and chase against her.
First chase. And the first chance for Zeno to make something very, very huge here for himself. Zaka is the injured survivor here, going to vault over the window here in the main building. Pretty good pathing, trying to waste a lot of time abusing the main building of the Alive Cat Saloon as long as possible here, making another turn. Zaka just holding W, and that's going to cost a lot of time actually. Zeno seems to be confident, however, that he wants to play this game with Zaka. But Eternal is definitely going to use this for the advantage. First generator already completed. Prion, what do you think about this first chase here? Trying to get Zaka so badly, then realizing it doesn't work out. Not the best start for him.
Really not a good start at all for Zeno. You cannot play this main building as Chucky without the doors broken. It's a 110 killer. The power cooldown is not long enough to make it between the windows. So if the survivors are pathing correctly and not getting mind-gamed, you really can't play that main building as Chucky. As it's going to be Kexo taking an M1 there. And we see the survivors are opting to drop a lot of these pallets, and that is because they don't want to deal with the Blood Favor. It's better for these pallets to just be down on the ground from the start. And looks like Zeno is trying to mind-game Shaq with the power. Goes under the pallet. He's going to have to flick here. It's not going to work, though, and Dire, I feel like Zeno is going for too many crazy mind games here.
Yeah, I think so as well. It feels a little bit like he wants to finish trial number 6 and his potential 3-0 win over Eternal a little bit too fancy, almost as if he's planning to upload it later on YouTube. Maybe we want to refocus on the fundamentals here, getting some injuries, getting some downs, and these 7 stages that are very needed. Good one now. Dan is injured, Spitz is injured, so we are going to add a little bit of pressure on the shoulders of these survivors. The slice and dice not going to find the target here. Spitz is going to stay a little bit too strong and longer alive, missing the hit here, giving Spitz Spitz, the center of the Dead Dog Saloon, access to the next potential pallet here. Never mind, nothing spawned here for Spitz. But yeah, a little bit worrying how it looks at the moment. It doesn't look as confident as in the previous trials for Xeno.
Yeah, finally the first down coming in for Xeno. Gonna be that first stack of Grim Embrace. Both of his totems are still standing, which is good. But the gen progress for Eternal is great so far. If I were Xeno here, it probably isn't too good of an idea to camp this, as the Grim Embrace is going to come out. You want to get those fresh hooks and get those gens blocked. It looks like he suspects that an unhooker is nearby, trying to find anybody stealthing nearby on the hook. And it looks like we have Zaka over by Shack, and then Kexo doing that middle street gen. So Xeno, incorrect. There's nobody here stealthing. So he's wasting quite a bit of time here in lockers and trying to get around towards what he thinks is a free down, but the unhook is just going to come in on Spitz with a heal as well. I'm not sure if that was Resurgence or will make it. Doesn't matter though, Spitz is already healthy, and that's a lot of time wasted for Xeno.
Yeah, I am getting officially worried for Team Elysium here now. All 4 survivors back to healthy, not at all looking like Xeno has the control. Maybe it does mean also that Eternal is shining the brightest when they are under a lot of pressure here. After 5 trials that didn't go their way, now making sure that they are starting to shine. Spitz has been injured and is now very far in the corner of the Dead Dog Saloon, so that's just going to be a little bit of time waste, but we see it very beautifully in the distance. The survivors are making sure that they are getting the progress into these generators. The windmill generator is going to be completed. Another generator is going to be completed as well, so we are going to have 1 generator remaining if they are able, or they weren't able to finish this one here on the street. This might be a punishing turn now though, because we still have our Hex Ruin. This might be a crucial turning point.
Yeah, and Xeno just mistiming the slice and dice there onto Kexo, not able to get the hit, and Spitz is healed again. That has to be Resurgence, or we'll make it on the unhooker. And yeah, it is Resurgence and will make it, which is an insane combo.
Wow.
Spitz is being healed in like less than 3 seconds, and another slice and dice missed for Xeno. These are starting to add up, Dyer. He's running out of time. He needs to get these downs.
Yeah, not sure if it's a starting panic that is coming out, because he realizes that 7 stages on the Chucky sounds nicer in the first moment than it's actually the challenge in the trial to achieve them. Not sure what's happening here. The next slice and dice is going to miss. Cannot even get the injury onto Zaka. Wasted a little bit of time there, and now going back towards the houses section. Survivors doing a really good job. They are staying safe, they are staying healthy to make sure that it's going to go into their advantage. Here the dodge of Kexo as well. Even the injuries are a difficulty, not only the down, and now Xeno needs to very carefully decide, is it going to be the chase here at the windmill, the completed generator from earlier, and giving some time. Nice and quick down here onto Kexo, but the end game is starting. We don't have an end game perk. Prion, this doesn't look at all like Elysium taking it.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, Xeno just was not patient enough with the slice and dices. He very often wasn't able to make it around the corners to hit the survivor, and you want to wait until the last possible second to trigger that dash when you're playing as Chucky. You want to pre-turn your camera so that you actually make it around the corner before the dash begins. And we just saw Xeno missing so many of these dashes. Team Eternal very efficient on the generators. They had great chases and great unhooks as well. Nobody got found stealthing. Kexo was healed up in seconds because of We'll Make It and Resurgence. So this is exactly what Team Eternal needed to get the momentum back and get back into this game. So going to be going into the 4th set very soon, which is going to be the Dracula. This one was picked by Elysium, so the storm is not ending anytime soon for Eternal. They still need to lock in if they want any chance of staying in this series.
Yeah, you can only hope that the Chucky was lost because it was the pick of Team Eternal. This is at least what Elysium will now try to tell themselves behind the scenes here going into this next trial. Dracula coming out, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to see you in a moment. We're going to hop on a quick break and we will see you very soon. Please stand by.
Hello everybody, we are on the Temple of Purgation here for this Dracula set. Xeno, starting out in the wolf form, now into vampire form, goes for a really ambitious Hellfire, not going to land onto Zaka though. Tries to swing around the tree as well, and that's not going to hit anything. Another Hellfire attempt coming out here. He's just walking around the loop and holding that Hellfire. Nice hit there onto Zaka, and that's going to activate Blood Favor now into the wolf form, and this is honestly an uncounterable situation for that Dracula. Actually, what a flare from Zaka. Only thing that could have saved him there, and Zaka hits a nice flare onto Xeno, and he's going to make it to the pallet as well. Dodges out on the Hellfire. Dire, this chase is insane from Zaka.
This is absolutely insane, and Xeno needs to make sure that he's not swinging too fast anymore, that he's not trying to do like it feels like we are seeing a completely different Xeno in these sets here. He's trying to do something way too much with panic, way too quick, and it's not going to work out. Here again, Zaka is dodging. Zaka is serving the juice. Zaka is activating. Zaka is doing everything. Luckily, there's the hit over the wall coming in, but it is a different Xeno, Prion. What happened? Who kidnapped my man?
Xeno needs to lock in here, Dire. I think he might be a little bit out of sorts from that Chucky set, as the first hook is going to come in. That is going to be a pain res. He's going away from the hook now back towards it though in bat form. And yeah, Xeno, he needs to focus up here for Elysium. Eternal, you don't want to let Eternal get up off the ground when you have them down. They need to be ending these chases quickly, getting these stages, and yeah, especially on this map that they picked. The Temple of Purgation, such an interesting one, as he's going to interrupt Dan here on this gen. He's got him at a TL, potentially very good for the Dracula, but he's going to miss the Hellfire there. Now teleporting back toward the hook in the bat form. Actually not teleporting just yet. Now teleporting. He's going straight to this pallet. Gonna come out into the wolf form, but he's not able to find Zaka, the injured survivor. Only has eyes on Kexo here, who is the deliverance survivor. Dire, maybe not who you want to chase, but he does eat the Hellfire.
Now, with the blood favor here, it's going to be a pretty rough situation to be in for Kexo. That's going to be the down right here. Xeno now a little bit quicker with the downs that are coming together. The early game really didn't work out for him, but the third generator is already finding the completion here. And as we mentioned, it is the deliverance survivor. So none of the eternal survivors has to rotate. They can all stick to the generators or other objectives, like going for the reset onto Zaka, and that's going to be really, really punishing. Someone is lurking over here at the TNL with the totem that Eternal would really love to get out of the way. The blood favor and the ruin still in the trial here, trying to go for it. Dan, we also have the gift of pain there and the pain rest. None of it is really making the huge change just now, mostly because Xeno is not able to really keep the survivors busy for the Hex Ruin, so the generator defense is just not really there at this moment. Prion, we need a lot more downs, and we need them quickly.
Yeah, whatever Xeno's strategy was here with this map pick, it doesn't seem to be working. Eternal has just been washing him in these chases so far, especially on the side of Zaka. They were able to get 3 gens done in exchange for only 2 hooks, and it seems like Xeno is determined not to break pallets here either. Now goes for the break with the wolf form, back into bat form now. This is a little bit of a dead zone, but there is 1 dropped pallet here for Kexo to work with. Going to go around this side of the low wall. Hellfire coming in, and the dead heart from Kexo, very nicely done. You're on the end of that Hellfire hitbox. It is definitely reactable with the dead heart. So only one generator to go now, Dire. Ruin is still up, but that's really not going to matter so far, since all of the Eternal survivors are still standing.
Back into the main building here, we see the scratch marks, potential next victim for Xeno, but it also doesn't really look like an Elysium's pick here at the moment. They selected the Dracula. They said we want to play this killer on Temple of Purgation, and this is really not the impression that we are getting at the moment. Eternal much stronger now on the survivor side. We're basically getting the 2 sets off the shoulders, have taken the Chucky afterwards, and now they seem to go back into their unstoppable mode. Kexo back to being healthy as well. All 4 survivors, do not worry about any risk. They can take 2 tags and waste quite an amount of time. Dan is rotating away from the pallet here, making some distance as well. No chance for Xeno. We are going back into the wolf form. Nice dodge there with the locker. Man, just everything works right now. Everything that Eternal is doing works out. It's so fascinating.
Yeah, Eternal is playing these chases so well, Dire. And not only that, they're pre-leaving away from the bat form perfectly, getting the jump on Xeno, making sure they're in a strong area. Now, Dan does eat a very good Hellfire there, but that's the first one of those Hellfire hits that's even, like, hit this game over the terrain for Xeno. Now, holding the Hellfire once again, he is going to get that one, but time is running out, Dire. I'm not even sure if he's going to get this hook before the last gen pops. There's 3 Eternal survivors standing. Surely they're at least doubling a generator. Pain Resonance is going to come in there, teleport immediately onto this main building window very far away. Yeah, or a fast pull coming in there. Eternal knows the momentum is on their side. They want to keep the tempo up, and that's why they go for this super fast unhook.
Yeah, I'm impressed, first of all, that we are actually not in the end game. This pain res really being a huge factor here towards the end, but it's not going to be enough at all. Nice by Zaka. They're going into the temple, making it look like he's just going to hold W, and then coming back in the perfect moment, slamming the pallet into Xeno's face here. That's going to be a miss with the Hellfire, but in exchange, Kexo had to leave this pallet, therefore taking a very quick M1. Xeno going into the bat form to catch up a little bit quicker, shrinking down the distance. I'm not sure if he has the time to go for the chase, and it seems like he agrees with that calculation, is prioritizing the generator defense here, which is understandable. This leads to Kexo being without a problem though. We have another generator in the distance on 60%, so the seconds are running against Xeno here. The timer is running down, ticking down towards the end game. Now a surprise onto our ace here, going into the basement, and that should be the final generator with this time waste. Then going on to the hook here, and now it's deciding how many stages will Xeno get during the end game. We kind of need spits. There is almost no other option for Xeno here.
Yeah, Xeno needs to be able to salvage something from this game here. He is going to find spits, which is really good here. He wants that fresh hook very badly, and if he can get spits up on the hook, it is very difficult to save against the Dracula if you're holding the Hellfire in front of the hook. Door already close to being done here, but spits is going to go down, so nicely done there from Xeno. He's back into bat form already, though. He wants to look for more. He's going to try to slug here, and he gets the grab onto Kexo. That is a great pickup, especially because the other 2 survivors are nowhere near getting a pickup on spits.
Hook onto Kexo, and Spitz still on the floor here. Very well done. The comeback from Elysium, question mark, in the final minutes of the trial here. That would be, of course, now a setback for Eternal after playing such a great Chucky game. They are now in a difficult end game here against the vampire, the Dracula of Xeno. Elysium's final chance to get something done. Dan and Zaka are healing, so this is telling us that they are at least considering that they are coming back into the trial here. I'm not entirely sure if it's a good idea. We have seen in the previous trial, you can try to play a good end game, and if it fails, you can really take a damage from it. But Dan is moving over here, so Zaka is certainly going for Spitz, and Spitz has now been rescued. Xeno needs to secure this down and this hook onto Spitz, trying to go into the bat form, but he's using the window, trying to use them to overcome Spitz, but he has walked back into the main building. It's difficult now as all of these scratch marks are adding up. They're healing in the main building, and there's the wolf, there's Xeno coming and trying the bats once again. Chaos endgame. Prion, how many stages will stay in the trial?
Xeno here really wants to get Spitz. He's going to try to Hellfire here. Hits one onto Zaka. Zaka now can't take a body block. They're trying to heal Spitz here with the bat form. He can get between them and the gate. And it looks like Spitz might actually go down here. But the Hellfire doesn't hit Spitz, but instead Dan. And now both of them injured are going for the gate. One more Hellfire coming out, and it is going to hit Spitz in the gate. Dan is also going to go down in the gate. And now all of these survivors are injured. Zaka, no flashlight save. There's no flashlight here, and all of the survivors are going to have to leave. Spitz picked up in the gate and put up on the hook, and this is probably one of the better results that Xeno could have hoped for here, Dyer.
Very good ending for Team Elysium here, with Spitz at least finding the way back onto the hook. Zaka would have been a little bit more ideal, of course, but I think right now Xeno can be happy that he got it. 3, 5, 7, 8 stages overall on 4 individual survivors. Prion, that is a pretty good result considering that this early game absolutely didn't go well.
Yeah, considering the incredible start that Team Eternal Survivors had, I think Xeno can be really happy with the amount of stages that he got. And it's going to be a pretty good win condition for the Elysium survivors, especially considering the map. It really is a weird map selection, Dyer. Not one that you would expect the killer to do very well on. I know the few times that we've seen Temple of Purgation in DBDLeague, it's been with the Wraith, and that is just like it's an unnaturally good map for the Wraith for some reason. But it seems to be a little bit different for the Dracula.
That's a very good point here. Yeah, I have seen in chat earlier that people said Xeno's Dracula should be stronger than Nightlight's. I'm not even sure if I would agree, because we haven't seen enough of Nightlight's Dracula. It could be very possible that it's flying under our radar and awareness, and that we are now going to see something absolutely crazy. The last time we have seen Nightlight on the Dracula against Severance, he was able to keep his team in the tournament. So I would not trade Nightlight's Dracula for a low price yet. So yeah, let's see how it's going to be played out. Ladies and gentlemen, Trial 8 will bring the decision. We are hopping on a very short break, and we will be back in just a minute here. Welcome back, everyone, to trial number 8, the potentially final trial of tonight. Nightlight for Team Eternal against Swatter, Xeno, Granout, and iPick on the survivor side for Team Elysium. And our Discord seems to have a little bit of a there we are going. That's going to be the pallet break right here. Good that Xeno is not going to take the injury here, because with what we have seen in the previous trial, Prion, we need a pretty strong early game here.
Yeah, Nightlight needs to come out of the gate swinging here, and we see he's running the exact same build that he had against Severance last week with that leverage Gift of Pain. So first hit going to come in onto Xeno, now into bat form, chasing Xeno. Throws the pallet here. Throwing these pallets down very early is very good against the Dracula, and we're actually seeing Xeno go to the corner. Does not want to take the chase, and going to be the first generator probably doubled by the survivors, but it is completed here. So Nightlight, he is using the window blocking add-on for the teleport in the bat form, but this is going to be the second time this week that we've seen Nightlight in an extremely high pressure situation on the Dracula. Can he bring it home once again for Team Eternal? One stack of Grim Embrace so far. He's going pretty far away from the hook here, maybe going for another Grim Embrace strategy. Now going to find Pedro here on the Lara Croft. Going to vault that window back into vampire form now toward the pallet side of the jungle gym, and Pedro gets the stun there. If he'd pulled up the Hellfire, that might have been a hit, Dire, but Pedro gets a very nice read onto the killer.
So I admit that I said we are having Gren out. It was the moment when the screen share was down. I was just assuming the same roster. It is actually Pedro, so maybe the specialist coming out here against the Dracula, cooking up something special. We have Zeno in the next chase here. Nice dead hard, making sure that the down is not coming through, that we have a little bit of extra time. Mind game on the pallet, just going to take the destruction here back into wolf form. Zeno making some distance, the haste effect coming through. And Zeno is able to reach the next pallet here, but an ambitious swing by Nightlight. Very confident, very well done. That's the second one, and the pallet save doesn't work out as well. Unfortunate now for Team Elysium. As much luck as Eternal had during the previous trial, with everything working out, with the lockers, with the great dodges, showing the skill, serving the juice, it feels like Elysium is getting punished a little bit.
Going to be the dry generator kick coming out from Nightlight, and unfortunately the For the People survivor is currently hooked. That is the only perk that would be able to kind of counteract this leverage Gift of Pain strategy from Nightlight. And that generator is so close to being done. Nice pathing there from Swatter to dodge out on the lunges from the Wolf. Nightlight going to leave that chase and go back towards the hook here. He has a feeling that iPick is over here on this generator, and he would be correct. Multiple generators are very close to popping already. Dire, what is this efficiency we're seeing from Elysium? There's 2 gens to go, and 2 gens at about 80% progress.
Yeah, Elysium really got out the mechanical skills here on the generator. Swatter is going to take the trade. It's very understandable that they are going for this 2 minutes and 20 seconds of hang time, but of course Zeno is the one who's going to be targeted here. Nightlight realizes the plan of Team Elysium as well. Generator number 4, the gens are flying. It feels like Team Elysium is playing with 7, 8, 9 survivors at the same time at the moment. They are turning the Temple of Purgation into their home map, into their stadium, and now Zeno able to dodge the wolf attacks here as well. Nightlight waiting for the vault of Zeno to make a nice Hellfire attack, but Zeno refuses to give him that free attack, and he has to actually leave. The survivor that he tried to tunnel out, adrenaline on Swatter as well. And ladies and gentlemen, we are seconds away from writing a huge story, because Eternal has taken 7 or 8 wins in DBDL in the previous years, and now they are not going to be featured in a grand final. It's also going to bring the streak of Zaka to an end, who went 1 tournament with Team Elysium 1.5 years ago, and then he won that. He is on a streak of 7 or 8 DBDL tournament wins in a row. Tonight it's coming to an end, as Nightlight is now grabbing iPick here, throwing him onto the hook, but it's on Swatter, Zeno and Pedro to just leave the trial here, making sure that they are getting free from their all-time opponent that is so often staying stronger here. And it seems like Elysium wants to finish this nicely. I just hope they are not doing anything too crazy here. It's okay when they are just witnessing and helping a little bit, and that seems to be the case here. A 4 out to finish the run of Eternal in the All Hallows League. We are saying goodbye to Nightlight, Zaka, Dan, Spitz, and Kexo, and we are congratulating Elysium on making it into the grand final.
Exemplary survivor play from Team Elysium. Dire, and Eternal is eliminated, just like you said. They said, go ahead, tunnel Xeno. He has dead hard. We're not going to play into the leverage gift of pain strategy at all, and we are just going to crank generators. Incredible efficiency from Elysium, 3-1 in the series, and while it is very surprising to eliminate Eternal before the grand finals, Elysium really deserves it, Dyer. They really brought it today.
Absolutely. We were a little bit worried throughout the Chucky game, but especially set 1 and 2, and now here on the Survivor side, this efficiency just made very clear why Team Elysium is going into the grand final against Calamity with a disadvantage, ladies and gentlemen. Calamity has one set that they can replay. Keep that in mind, everyone. It is a best of 7, and in case Elysium is going to win it, Calamity can basically say, we would like to replay one of the sets. This is the advantage they receive for staying in the winner bracket. A best of 7 ahead of us, but I just want to say again, it is huge what we have seen today for the entire scene. For such a long time, Eternal was on the number 1 position. No one could really shake it around. Sometimes we had Elysium taking the little bit of a stronger performance, but most of the time Eternal was on the 1, maximum on the 2nd, and now they are only in the top 3. I mean, it's still a great result, but when we are talking about Eternal, it's obvious that they are having the crown in almost every tournament. So having a grand final where Eternal is not even involved is just crazy for the entire competitive scene.
Yeah, Elysium played so well today. I mean, like you said, the Chucky set was a little bit shaky, but that's to be expected when Elysium is not a team that likes to pick the Chucky. In all of the other sets, it was almost dominant, the fashion in which they defeated Eternal here.